All right, now for another edition of Short Legs Big Rage, Season 1, Episode 3. Myself, Angry Corgi, is here with Joey Shadows, and we are about to talk PlayStation.
Fuck yeah, the
S-
goat.
And really, we talked Xbox last week and how Xbox changed the face of gaming with online. But today we are going to talk about how PlayStation just did everything. From the DualShock controller, compact disc, memory cards, to being the dominant console today, in my opinion. But
The game changing the game of the storytelling, I would even say too.
well, and that's true because we found, and that's kind of what I found, and we talked about it the other day. But for me, a lot of the best RPGs of our age, anyways, was through Sony. But Sony gave us just a different way to view video games because when we grew up, it was pretty much Nintendo and Sega. And when I was like doing research on this, I completely forgot about the Sega Dreamcast. Like that is how irrelevant it was to
hmm
children at
hmm
the time because when
hmm
PlayStation came out, it just changed everything. But Joe, why don't you give us a little history on PlayStation? Starting off with the Nintendo deal that went wrong.
Oh yeah. So just before that deal even happened, um, Sony actually made the sound chip for the Super Nintendo. They already kind of had a partnership deal. Sony was big in the electronics, right? With the Sony Walkman,
Yeah,
the radios, the CD players, right? Like they
that's
knew
what they were known
sound,
for.
they knew, yeah, yeah, like they knew sound, they knew technology, they knew it all, right? So, what actually ended up happening is a gentleman by the name of Ken, I'm going to pronounce this probably wrong, Kutaragi, I believe it's called, uh, was basically the reason why Sony entered the gaming market, and that was all because he helped design the Super Nintendo sound chip. And he actually did that behind Sony's back originally. He was working on it secretly. They didn't want to get into the gaming market. They saw what happened with the crash, right, of 83, I believe it was. We talked about that, I think, in our first episode a little bit. And they just didn't want to bother with it, right? They just wanted to work on their TVs and their radios and their this and their sound systems and all
Well,
that
they
kind of stuff.
were the Cadillac of home entertainment at the time. Like and that was it. You couldn't beat like Sony was tier one in everything.
hmm
Sorry, Joe,
There's
continue.
Sony, Panasonic. No
Yep.
problem. Yeah, like Sony, Panasonic,
RCA,
right? Like all
Philips.
RC, right? Which
Yeah.
we'll talk about Philips too, because um, so yeah, so Ken Kutaragi went kind of behind their back. Once he kind of started having it in development, he kind of brought it up with the big wigs at Sony. Every single one of them, except for one, was like, "Fuck that, we're not doing it." And the gentleman, well, I don't think I wrote it down. I can't remember his name. I'm looking, I should have paid attention to my notes. But, anyways, there was one gentleman that said, you know what? I think you're onto something. I'm going to help fund this and I'm going to push you through this. So, what they ended up doing was moving Ken Kutaragi's team way over into the other building, which was Sony's CD division, which now would help them out because that's kind of what they were working on. We'll go with that with the Nintendo later, right? So move them into there, and they felt right at home. And they kept creating the chip. It worked. Yo, look, like they had a piece of Sony inside every single Nintendo, Super Nintendo that was sold. They were making a profit. They were making money and profit off of every single Super Nintendo sold, dude. Like at one point, and this is further on, but I'll jump ahead a little bit. Sony gaming division made 40% revenue for Sony company itself. They made 40% of the revenue for the fucking company, right? So Ken Kutaragi was definitely onto something, right? That's a little foreshadowing or whatnot. So yeah, so he entered the gaming market. He made the sound chip. Um, like I said, it was secret. The reason why he decided to do this is because he watched his daughter play the Super Famicom, and he saw something in it, right? He saw that there was something like all these kids playing it. Fucking everyone is goddamn playing Famicom and Super Famicom, dude. Like, and for all those who don't know, the Famicom was the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, right? Um, Famicom, family computer, very simple naming process, right? Um, so yeah, I saw the potential. Um, oh, Norio Oga was the guy's name. There we go. I got my fucking notes here. They're so goddamn small, bro. Um, so yeah, so they started in actually in 1988. They started in talks about maybe making, because once they found the sound chip and everything was good, they started talks with Nintendo and maybe making a gaming console together that was going to be called the Nintendo PlayStation, right? Um, so, but so they're in developers, they're in talks, they're doing all this other stuff. Sony was a very greedy company, and basically with the deal, they made it so like Nintendo didn't really have any say in fucking anything, because Sony was like, we're developing most of this, we're going to get a say on the games. We're going to get a say on the profit. We're going to get a say on the split. We're going to get a say on like fucking all this stuff. We are making CDs. They were one of the grandfathers of CDs, right? So they were pushing CDs. CDs were way better. So they're like, we're going to be using our fucking CDs and shit. Like, yeah, your name is behind it, but like, really, we're fucking doing everything else for you guys here, right? So, what ended up happening is Nintendo went behind their back and started talking to their competitor, Philips, in creating a CD-based system without Sony knowing. Sony had no fucking idea, dude. And at I believe it was CES 92. Yeah, CES 92, E3 or CES 92. Anyways, Sony was already with Nintendo. They're like, man, this is going to be a great, like, fucking, we're going to show the world this new system. We got the prototype ready and everything like that. Nintendo goes on fucking stage, and the Sony CEO or whatever, he's waiting in backstage, and they call fucking Philips to the stage. And they're like, yo, we got this new system coming out. It's called the Philips fucking CDI. Do we all remember the Philips CDI? Probably only people that like people really into gaming remember that piece of shit system, right? Remember that. And Sony was just sitting back there being like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, what is this? Like, blindsided, right? It created such a rip. Sony then started deciding, like, well, we got this thing, we think we can make it big. Do we want to like go into the market? So they started talking with Sega now. They're like, fucking, they went to our competitors, we're gonna go to their competitors. They started going with Sega, right? We all know you mentioned the Dreamcast. Do we all remember the Sega Saturn,
Yeah.
right? The Sega Saturn was before the Dreamcast, right? So they started kind of in talks with Sega, they started in talks with all these other people. And then, like I said, they had three choices: be partnership with somebody else, right? Um, whether who it is, right? But it's got to be a gaming company because they're just not going to jump in with any other company, right? Two, just fuck it. Yo, Nintendo fucking Nintendo disrespected us.
Balls to the wall.
Yeah,
Just, yeah.
yeah. Like, what are we gonna do? Are we just gonna take that and be like the laughing stock of the goddamn industry now? Because this is a story that's going to be our legacy. Or three, go balls to the wall and come up with their own fucking system. And thank God they picked the third option. Okay, so they started the development. They started everything where they started thinking of all this stuff. They started talking with other game developers, right? Like, hey, we're coming up with this new system, and the way that they're pushing it is like, yeah, 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 yeah. You go with Nintendo. They're so because Nintendo after the CDI they started working on the 64, right? Um, because CDI was a fucking bust, dude. The CDI was one of the only times, and this is why Nintendo doesn't let anybody work on their trademark games anymore. Um, other than like Mario. Ah, shit. Forgot the name of it. I believe they let somebody work on Star Fox, but that was Star Fox Adventures, which again didn't work out well. But anyways, the reason why they didn't let anybody else work on their Morios or the this or that anymore was because the CDI fucked it so much. Their Legend of Zelda games were shit. They made two of them. They made a Mario game which they called Hotel Mario, which was a piece of shit fucking game. And also, if you ever remember the CDI, it was a fucking remote, dude. The controller was a remote.
See, I
Like,
can't remember it, but I'm definitely gonna put a clip art right here of it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, dude. It was a fucking remote, bro. Like, how do you play a game with them? They did it with the Wii, they whatever. But how do you like think of a TV remote, and that was like the Coleco with
yeah.
the number buttons, and it was fucking. It was the exact same shit, dude. Basically, right? Like, how do you play a game with that? Anyways, I digress. So, dude, the whole history of that, like, I watched like an hour and a half documentary on this stuff, and I'm trying to break it down in like 5, 10 minutes, but it is fucking crazy. And it is crazy that Nintendo did that. You know what I mean? Like, the disrespect, especially in the Asian community, like, how the hell do you do that? Right? Like, where everything's about honor and respect and everything, like that, the balls to do that. Anyway, so they decided to come up with a PlayStation, right? Actually, it was called the PlayStation X at first, but then they dropped the X. But they came out with a CD-based system, and they started going to companies, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, you can make for Nintendo, or hey, we got a cheaper disc-based medium that you don't have to buy everything, right? Like you could buy as it goes. You know, we all remember burning CDs. We buy a roll of CDs, right? That was basically what developers had to do. They just had to buy a fucking thing of burnt CDs and put their game on it, right? That's just cheap, right? Nintendo made you buy a bunch of cartridges, and they weren't cheap. There's a reason why Nintendo games are and were and still are for whatever they're greedy now, but were like 80, $90 even for Super Nintendo. It's because like the cartridge cost the company like 40, $50 to buy. So they had to make some sort of fucking profit on it, right? CDs were cheap. PlayStation, again in the future, that's why games were like $30, $20 to buy, right? Because they were cheap. They could hold more on it, right? Now, I believe the load times were a little bit longer, which was a setback compared to a cartridge-based system. Um, but then they had the memory card, they had this, right? The cartridge you could only save on the memory on the cartridge itself. And when the cartridge battery died, your save file goes with it. So
In
if you try to hook up
Go ahead.
I was gonna say if you try to like hook up one of your old systems now and go to play a game and you're like, where the fuck's my save files? It's because your battery died and you can never save on that cartridge ever again, right? So at least with a memory card, like I believe there was an internal kind of battery on it, or it could get corrupted, but it was less likely of a chance for it to get corrupted or the battery to like die quicker than it was for cartridge. So yeah, they started going to all these other companies, and they're like, hey, yeah, it's just cheap. Let's fucking do it. Some companies were starting to get on board, right? The biggest company, if we all remember, Squaresoft at the time, now Square Enix, they were they weren't a first party for Nintendo, but they had a very good relationship with them, right? They created the RPGs, all the Final Fantasies and everything came out to Nintendo. They fucking fun fact, dude. Squaresoft was going to make Final Fantasy 7 on the Super Nintendo,
Yep.
and then they were going to make it on the 64. They realized that what they wanted to do and the capabilities of the 64 can handle what they wanted to do. That's why they jumped over to the PlayStation. That's fucking wild. Like, think about Final Fantasy VII now, and think about it being on Super Nintendo. Like, I don't think that franchise would be what it is today if it wasn't for fucking PlayStation.
And we kind of touched on that last week because if there is one thing PlayStation it is franchise heavy. But again, with the CD-ROM, and you were alluding to load times. You know what, man? It didn't even seem that bad back then. Like there was some stuff that you would be like, "Okay, this is taking a while." But when we talk about Final Fantasy VII, and let's be real, that could be one of the greatest games of all time, if not top five. That defined an era, that defined a franchise, that defined Sony itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big thing, right? Because now we could take this huge story, we can take the graphics we've never seen before, right? We gave them a bigger palette of colors to paint with, and we said, do it because
Mm-hmm.
we're that guy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this is the other thing, and just to kind of to step back on it, just for
Mm-hmm.
anybody listening. So one thing that did set a lot of places apart and Sony apart was Sony didn't have primary developers. So Sony did use in the first gen, like Joe was saying, they eventually got on with Square. But what had happened was they were essentially subcontracting out to a bunch of developers. So there was no in-house guys um, that were handling, specific things. So
Mm-hmm.
that really changed the game. And we talked about things that Xbox did, but PlayStation, by giving developers um, just a whole other like I said, a palette, giving them a different canvas. Now we're changing
Mm-hmm.
games, and we talked about it last week. Is we will never forget the 3 discs of Final Fantasy VII. Like if you were blindfolded and you had to pick that CD case out of a lineup, there's a probably good possibility you are right. There's the little crack on the front, just weathered in time, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's it, and that's when we're going to get into hands down the best selling console in gaming history. But we
Yes.
will get to that. But like I said, PlayStation, like you said, balls to the wall. um, all we have is an idea, and we've got a way to get your idea onto a disc. And like you
Yeah,
said,
and
oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was gonna say like, and also like, the reason why the PlayStation was enticing was because Nintendo had a lot of rules when creating games, right? No blood and gore, no religious like symbols or anything like that. Like there was like they were a family entertainment game, and PlayStation was they realized where the market is, and they were trying to basically, they were trying to destroy Sega. They were going to take over Sega's market.
And they
The
did. I don't
Yeah,
think anybody
the
can
ang
can prove that wrong.
yeah, dude. Yeah, like the teenagers, we're going to take the extreme sports. We're going to take this, we're blood, guts, gores, titties, like whatever. Like you can make it on our fucking system. We don't care. We just want fucking games, right? We just need because if your if your console don't have games, it don't sell. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just like Nintendo again is an exception because I'm gonna go the Switch 2 route. It don't have no games per se.
But it
It doesn't
has the
have a
brand
lot of
behind it.
Switch 2. It has the brand behind it, but like if you don't have games to sell your system ain't selling games. So yeah, so PlayStation, like I said, their marketing strategy was like we're the new extreme fucking teenage adult system now. We could try to go after the kids later, but let's build our brand and our market first, and then maybe we could start trickling it out like these little kiddie games that Nintendo makes, right? So they released their system on December 3rd, 1994 in Japan. They only had 8 games. I know it doesn't sound like a lot compared to like, but even nowadays, like there's not a lot of release games, right? You know what I mean? Like, so they had 8 games. They sold 100,000 like 100,000 units within the week and 300,000 in the first month. Like, it was fucking hard to find a PlayStation. Like, they were just selling, 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 right? So when I was mentioning, um, about like Sega or Sony going after Sega because they tried to make that partnership deal. Sega was like, no, we don't want that, whatever. So again, it was like one of those disrespect things where like, fuck you. Now we're gonna take you over. We could have had a partnership, we could have helped you all out, but now that's it. Now we're gonna fucking take you over. So I mentioned the Sega Saturn. So this was in '94 when they first came out. In '95, um, Sony and in the E3 in '95, the Sega was about to announce a Saturn, right? So Sega was going to be on stage first, then Sony was going to come on stage after them. Sega came on stage with the Saturn. They're like, yeah, look at this awesome system. We got this, we got that, blah, 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 CD based and this, and that. They were like price 399, right? And then everyone's like, yeah, that's cool, great, that system looks awesome, blah blah blah. Fucking Sony comes on stage right after, and you could watch this on fucking YouTube. They kind of show like a little demo and everything like that, and literally, and I can't remember the guy's name at the time, but literally he picks up the mic and all he says is 299 and fucking drops the mic and walks off stage, dude. Like again, when I say they were going to destroy Sega, their plan was to fucking, because they knew they couldn't touch Nintendo, right? But if they can at least get um the other game designer, like the other game company out of the way, then they could start trying to dismantle Nintendo piece by piece, right? So they're like, we got to get Sega out of the fucking way. They didn't know, like, again, we were talking about Xbox the other day. They kind of didn't know that they were starting to plan on coming into the market. So they weren't really giving a shit about them for the first console generation. PlayStation 2, different story. Um, so yeah, so they in '95, like the motherfucker just, dude, fucking watch the video when you get a chance. Just come on stage,
I
man.
did earlier.
299, fucking
And,
mic drop.
and for those who are watching that have not seen the clip, I will attach a link here. But essentially, it became the price war, and they got to a point where, like we talked about earlier, the CD was so cheap to manufacture, and from the world of supply chain management, you don't have to hold on to inventory like you did with cartridges. Cartridges
Mm-hmm.
needed that pre-sale to know what we're going to have, what we're going to go through,
Mm-hmm.
and if they didn't sell, there was a warehouse full of them. And I think one thing that we didn't really touch, there's a couple things we didn't touch on here, and we'll just catch up to what we're talking about, is PlayStation would have been the first to actually have rated games. When we think about that, like it wasn't something that I really thought about until now, right? We had the E for everybody, we had the 13 plus, blah blah blah, kind of like a movie rating, but that just showed, and to bring back to your point, is they were done making the kids game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really what happened, is that is where it all took off. Because we can speculate, but would Xbox have used a compact disc if not for PlayStation? Would they have gone with
No.
a cartridge? Probably, right? To keep it in the cartridge game, because if there's one thing
Mm-hmm.
that Nintendo makes its money off of, is being able to craft the little, like even the Switch, like these little like SD cards. It's just stupid. Just stop.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it.
Yeah.
But people need a job. There needs to be a factory going, and PlayStation, with 94 up until the PS2, and like you said, there wasn't many games. But one thing they did do, PlayStation always had a demo disc. And that is one
Mm-hmm.
thing that you could appreciate about it, because at
Mm-hmm.
least they were out there trying to figure out. And that's when you think of marketing, like you said, Nintendo was basically, this is what you get, right? We have our one creator. This is the creation world. This is what you're going to get. PlayStation said, we don't have a creator. Uh, Everybody just,
Yeah.
we'll see what sells, which is fine, right? That is what you do. Sometimes you don't need a burger joint, you need a buffet, and that is one thing PlayStation brought to the market. And we talked about the controllers last week, with the Duke controller. Nintendo controllers have always been, the familiarity of a cell phone size,
Mm-hmm.
but when we talk about the PlayStation, and let's tie this into what is going to be the best-selling console of all time. Once the PlayStation 2 came and DualShock came, that changed the feel of gaming.
Yes, sir, man. So one, it changed. Yes, it definitely changed with the Dual Shock. You had the little rumble inside, right? Again, we could go back to Nintendo after that happened with the 64. They added the Rumble Pack,
Yeah,
but again, you had to buy this. You had to buy this extra thing, right, to hook inside, and it only worked with certain games. Like it only worked if the company that was making the game wanted it to work,
yeah,
right? Like it wasn't a thing, right? But because it was included inside the controller and everything, and I believe like in the programming and all that stuff, like almost every game utilized that for the PlayStation. They made it very easy to like utilize that. They also added and I know we're jumping back and forth,
No, that's
but on
fine.
the original PlayStation, you had the controller, okay, but you didn't have those analogs. Those analogs did not exist on the original PlayStation controller. So the problem with them, and this is why they ended up creating the analog controller, is that they were trying to create 3D games with D-pad controls. Which if we all tried to play that, that's fucking hard to do, dude. Like, if you remember playing the original Resident Evil, which was a
Yeah.
very high-setting game, very good game, but it was tank controls on a D-pad, bro. Like, how do you play a 3D game? Yes, the camera was fixed, but it was still a 3D environment. Like, how do you do that? Like, they tried, right? Crash Bandicoot, they kind of figured out a way around it. They created a 3D game, but it was over the shoulder camera, and you were only moving side to side, maybe front and back.
It was
Then some of
essentially a
this,
platformer still.
yeah, yeah, like they figured out a way around it. They created a game before uh, Mario 64. It was called Jumping Jack Flash, I believe, which was like a first person 3D platformer, but it was awkward. It was clunky. Like it was tough for the PlayStation. Like they had an idea and they wanted to jump into the 3D world per se, because not only did they want to crush Sega, they wanted to crush PC gaming. They wanted to make a cheaper, affordable system that had the capabilities of PC gaming on your TV, right? So that's why the disk based, the demo, they learned that from computers, right? Like we remember
AOL
opening
demo disc.
cereal
Yep.
boxes, yeah, and you would get this fucking demo disc for your PC or this one-off game that had two or three levels for your PC, right? Like they learn, and they also wanted to crush the PC market. That was the whole idea. We want all the technology of a PC in a fucking unit, and it's cheaper to make, and it's cheaper and it's affordable for everyone, right? Because if we all remember back then, PCs were, I mean, they're still pretty expensive, but back then, like just for a simple Apple II, Macintosh, whatever, like you're looking over a G now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like in that, and with like back in that day, they were like a G to have. Like they weren't cheap. Not everyone had a computer back then, right? Everyone wanted a computer. Everyone didn't have one, right? You were lucky to have a computer. Um, so yeah, so when we were talking about the DualShock, so like I forgot to mention the original PlayStation didn't have DualShock, right? So when they were thinking about their next system, they knew that the controls, the D-pad controls, weren't going to work because now they started understanding 3D, the Crash Bandicoot, which again also made by Naughty Dog. If no one fucking remembers that, and we're going to talk about franchises later, and we'll bring it all back. But I just want to mention, Naughty Dog made Crash Bandicoot, and Insomniac started off making fucking Spyro the Dragon. I'm just going to point that out. We're going to talk about them later. I know we are, but you're going to see what they did, dude. The fucking these companies, bro. I fucking love
But
them. Anyways, um, so yeah, 96, like I said, or 95, they dropped it 299. 96, fucking Saturn, uh, again at the E3 dropped their Sega Saturn down to 299. PlayStation came and they're like, fucking, our shit's 199, guys. Like, why wouldn't you buy us, right? So I'll just skip ahead till we can get to the PS2, but these are some facts. 97, Final Fantasy 7 came out. 98, this is where it all changed. So in 98, Sony came out with a DualShock controller. Now the DualShock controller was for PlayStation. They came out with this new controller, right? So because they realized their mistake, we can't control 3D with fucking D-pads. We need something else, right? We need some sort of different controls. So in 98, they came out with the DualShock. So now you got the two analog sticks, which I'm gonna say right now, having them parallel, don't like it. I love PlayStation, but fucking having them parallel, my God, dude. Offsetting, I know they can't do it because of a patent, but holy shit, the offset analog is way better. But I love Sony, so they came out with the DualShock, added the analog sticks and the built-in rumble. Now what they did is, I don't know if we all remember this, but there was a button in the middle and it said analog, and we never knew what the fuck it did, right? And that was because some games were still coming out with the old controls, and some games are coming out with the new controls, right, with the analog stick. So if the game had analog stick capability, you were supposed to press that button, then you could use the analogs. I
Oh,
never knew what the dude until I watched that documentary. I fucking had no idea why that analog button was there.
yeah, and
That's
we
why it was
easily
there.
spent years looking at it. So,
Yeah, yeah, you would press it on, the light would come on, and then you're like, well, what's different? It's because the game you were playing had the capability of using the analog sticks instead of the D-pad. So if anybody's going to go back and play retro games and try that, that's what it is. Um, so yeah, and then I just want to mention some notable games until we talk about the PS2. But '98, Metal Gear Solid came out, right? Biggest game of the year for PlayStation. '99, Siphon Filter and Silent Hill. Like I
well,
want to mention this stuff because these are the franchises that they got, and
yeah,
they
and
all
that's yeah,
started with the PlayStation,
yeah.
right?
I was gonna
They
build
all
on that.
started with the PlayStation. Yeah. Um, 99, by 99, 50 million PlayStations were sold at all time, like throughout all the years, 50 million by 99. That's a fucking like that's a huge number, I think. I know there's like 8 billion people in the world, but well, like whatever, that's a huge number. And then 99 also Dino Crisis, Final Fantasy 8,
Oh
and
wow,
Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out.
yeah,
Like they were coming out with fucking banger after fucking
and
banger.
that was it.
Now they
Even
have
on
a
the
lot of
first
shit,
one.
but
Well, you had Tony Hawk, but then you had Cool Borders 3 at the same time. And that
hmm
was it. Like it was you were already on to number 3, number 4 of games. And like PlayStation was just so dominant. And you know, and another franchise we didn't bring up yet is Tekken. And when
oh
you
my body.
right? Which is a whole other because when we talk about, and this is going to bring us into the PS2, but this brings us back into the
hmm
analog and 3D kind of controls, right? Silent Hill, you were constantly looking around. Whereas, again, when we talked about Crash Bandicoot, it was pretty straightforward. Like there wasn't
hmm
anything like you could D pad Crash Bandicoot. But when you started
hmm
to get into um, Tekken,
Like
uh,
openish world 3D spaces and stuff like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
and then right then we got to Final Fantasy 7. Could you imagine Final Fantasy 7 just on D-pad? Like it would be fucking there's a better way to play, you know,
hmm
but
hmm
that's it. But what Sony did out of spite, and as someone who's known me long enough, this is like my kind of long game. Like I really love this because not only like this is where dominance began. Like they may have been shaken here and there, but Sony's foothold in the gaming market is on a different level. And you know, we're moving on to, you know, PlayStation 2, but I can't remember like and I we played a lot of Super Nintendo. I don't think we played as much as we played PlayStation.
No, we once the PlayStation came out, bro, we switched because again, it was our demographic. It came out when we were like so
Yeah,
it came
teenage.
out, yeah, it came out, I believe it came out in like 97 in like no, it couldn't have been. It came out
Earlier
in
94ish.
was it 94? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't remember it up until like Final Fantasy was the first fucking game I remember playing on the PlayStation. I must have went on a backlog after and played the other games, but my first memory was Final Fantasy. So I must have gotten it in 97 and then we backlogged all the games, right? Like we all remember playing the games, but like we probably went on a backlog and played the games, right? So
Well,
but you're right. When we initially finally got the PlayStation, it was our console. Like it was made for us. We didn't want to play those kiddie games anymore. We would play it behind people's backs,
yeah, but
right?
it's not one
But
you'd
we
be playing at a sleepover, right? We'd rather
no,
piss ourselves playing Resident Evil 4 than
fuck,
doing
dude.
so. But even Silent
Metal
Hill,
Gear
it
Solid. Do you remember? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no,
Do
I do
you
remember
remember sleepovers and we'd stay up all fucking night trying to beat Metal Gear Solid because we rented it and we only had
three
three
days.
days to play it? Dude, I remember passing out and waking up and you were still playing it and you're like, I beat the game. And I'm like, what do you mean you beat the game? Like, what do you mean? Like, I
I was
fucking passed
Solid
out and
Snake.
you.
But that's it.
Dude, I just remember that.
But it opened up and you touched on it earlier, it was a more mature audience. And at that age with the cheaper gaming, we could afford it because even when, Cool Borders 3, and one thing that PlayStation did was PlayStation used to have its classics for $30, so any kid could really go and play. But like even with Nintendo buying the cartridge, everything after, you're still looking 80, $90. And that's you, it wasn't sustainable. Now, when we look at some of the franchises that started off, like the Mount Rushmore of PlayStation games, there's things that started back then that weren't good. Like you remember the oh man, and I hate to say this, but okay, I can't remember his name right now. It's slipping my head. But the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk movie, the
Oh, are
first,
you're the first one with Eric Bana?
that's the one, right? It was the movie we needed, but we didn't need that. And then it was remade and remade. Like Green Lantern is going to be like there's certain things that we'll always love Ryan Reynolds, but we'll always not talk about these projects. And
Yeah,
I think
it's a
that's
great
it.
idea, but it wasn't executed properly.
And that's it. Like we
It's
talk about God
basically
of
it.
War being one of those games, like The
Hmm.
Witcher 1 and 2 versus The Witcher 3. There were so many things, Uncharted, Gran Turismo, Tomb Raider. Like, and we talked about last week how Xbox was very light on franchises. Xbox
Hmm.
had a lot of, like you said, the offset analog. There was a lot of things with Xbox that to this day they really haven't had to evolve much. The controller being one of those things. And
Hmm.
we talked about the franchises, right? We talked about Halo, but there are so many other things. And when we talk about PlayStation, is there's always a game on PlayStation. It didn't matter. Like PlayStation versus Nintendo wasn't a thing. Nintendo was its own tier. PlayStation was his own tier, and then Xbox got in because once Sega was out of the question, and like we talked about first, PlayStation, in my opinion, um, dealt the death blow to Sega. I think after we moved
Hmm.
away from Sonic, because that was it. It was Sonic versus Mario at that point, and then we moved away
Hmm.
from that from the corny kid games, and we moved on to your Silent Hills, The Last of Us, Tomb Raider, the open world concept where I can look around. I'm not just seeing this 2D image anymore. Because even when you guys used to get games, and the other thing we forget about Joe is when because we live in Canada, not everything was released here first. Like I remember you guys got a
Yep.
copy of N60 or you guys got N64 like a week before release because so one of your uncles knew someone and something else. We're not going to name
Fell
names who
off the
drops out,
back of a truck.
right? Stuff like that. But it's the same. But I worked at Future Shop, right? There was stuff that I had before other people had. And same with,
Hmm.
knowing buddies at Blockbuster and so on without incriminating anybody. But that was the thing.
Hmm.
PlayStation wasn't designed for our market. PlayStation came to our market, right? It was
Hmm.
designed to take out the Asian market. It went to the UK and it went to the US. We still weren't
Hmm.
considered part of the US demographic because we didn't have the numbers that the US could have. But if it wasn't for PlayStation, would we have seen Xbox do what Xbox did? So that's why I like to say, like, Nintendo set a bar,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
PlayStation set a PlayStation was essentially CGI versus animation. It was a whole different world. Like we
Hmm.
sat there and
Yeah,
you remember how many times we used to sit there and watch? It was like a movie, wide-eyed in
dude,
front of your dad's DLP,
yeah.
right?
Or we'd go on YouTube and we'd watch the cutscenes over and over again after playing the game because it was just amazing to us. And you mentioned, would Xbox be here if PlayStation wasn't? I'm telling you right now, my personal opinion, it wouldn't. Because the reason why Microsoft created the Xbox is because Sony started to scare them. The PlayStation, I think I mentioned in the last one, started to scare the shit out of them. And they're like, fuck, we need a home console or Sony's gonna fucking take us out. Like again, that's how powerful this system is that Microsoft, a gaming company that's been, or not a gaming company, but like a computer company that's been around since what, like the 70s, that had a name in America, was fucking, they weren't scared of Nintendo. They were fucking terrified of Sony coming in and taking away their fucking market. is what they were afraid of.
And the thing is, when you think about it, they had Apple on the other side. Like we
Mm-hmm.
touched that Sony had the home theater entertainment. To this date, Sony still has home theater entertainment, right? It is still,
Mm-hmm.
the benchmark for the most part. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like Sony played the game different, and like you said, Microsoft, I bet you Nintendo and Microsoft would have made a deal if not for PlayStation, because they would have complete control, and it would be the
Mm-hmm.
same for the computer world. If not for Apple, would Microsoft have tried as hard? Would we have moved on to? Because if there's one thing, and I live by competition, because I think competition uh, brings the best out of all of us,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. Um, I don't think Xbox would have been what Xbox was. I don't think Xbox would have done like we talked about. Probably wouldn't have done a CD. It probably
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have been an internal hard drive, even a floppy or a cartridge. But
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo's stranglehold on the market was so big that they would have to team up, right? If you can't beat them, join them. And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of where Sony said, screw you, because Nintendo thought it was so big that we're going to go to Philips instead.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, dude. Like, oh, you're touching up on like the competition. I love, like, don't get me wrong, I'll always have a soft spot for Nintendo. I'm always gonna love PlayStation, and I will fucking, no matter how much they piss me off, call it, what do you call it? Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Call it Stockholm syndrome. They could piss me off as much because they have been fucking pissing me off with their tier system and
Yeah.
upping price and all this other bullshit that they're doing. Been pissing their UI interface. Oh my god, fucking horrible. Anyways, but I always loved PlayStation. Xbox, whatever. Like, I got Game Pass. My phone's an Xbox. I'm an Xbox. My TV's an Xbox. Everything's a fucking Xbox nowadays. I'm not concerned with Xbox. But I hope, and this is whatever tangent, but I hope that another new company comes in with a gaming system that rivals the other ones. Because, like you said, like with competition, like what's happening is complacency, right? Complacency is happening right now. Game companies aren't trying. They're releasing games nowadays that fucking aren't even finished. Because why do they have to? You're gonna buy it. What choice do you have? You're gonna fucking buy this game. Yeah, maybe we'll fix it, maybe we won't, but you'll fucking buy it
Yeah.
because you got
And
no other
that's just
goddamn
it.
choice, right? But sorry, I digress. That could be a
Nope.
discussion for another show. Just wanted to kind of bring that up. Competition is great. Everybody wants one. Why can't there be just one system that makes everything and blah blah blah? It's because if you got this one system that makes everything,
Gonna be boring as fuck.
you're paying $200 for a fucking game, dude, because you got no choice, which again is a good reason why PlayStation came into the market because Nintendo was selling games for 80, 90, 100. Like, go look up old Toys R Us fucking magazines. Like, the reason why you didn't get a lot of games as a kid is because they're fucking expensive. Like, oh my God, dude. Like, I look at it now and I'm like, I get it. I get why my parents didn't buy me a game every 2 weeks or whatever when once I was done with that game. Like, and I wasn't done with that game. Those games were fucking hard. But um PlayStation came in, and again, they changed the market with even pricing. Like you were mentioning the greatest hits. I think the greatest hits dropped down to 19.99.
Yeah.
You could get Final Fantasy VII for $20.
But it was
Eventually, you could.
affordable, right? You didn't need to ask your
Mhm.
mom and dad for money. You could just go do it and
You had a
hide it
part-time
from them
job,
like a
and
normal child.
again, they knew their market. Teenagers, 15, 16, 17, 18-year olds had a part-time job. Let's make this shit affordable for them so they don't have to ask mom and dad to buy this game. They're just going to come down and they're going to buy this game themselves, right? Mom and dad aren't going to say no, no more. They're just going to go to the video game store and they're going to buy this game. Fucking genius. Dude, the more I think about it, fucking genius, Sony. Oh my God. Anyway, sorry. We
The
were
plot
talking
thickens,
about
eh? Yeah.
yeah, dude. The more we talk, the more I start seeing how genius these motherfuckers are, right? Like, but we were talking about, sorry, we were talking about exclusives, right? That's what we want to talk about
Well, we're
now.
talking about just the
Um,
PS1 to PS2 altogether.
oh,
This
sorry,
is why I
PS1 to
edit
PS2.
these.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
So,
I fucking go on tangents, dude.
well, but that's it. But I think we got the main point across with PS1
Yeah.
coming into the market. But now, what I really want to touch on, Joe, is the best-selling console ever. Talk to me about the PlayStation 2.
What a fucking system, bro. Like, I have it up here. I should have shared it with you, but can I read out right now like the top selling? I played this game with Mandy, the top selling systems of all times. So we'll because this I'm gonna tell you that you're gonna notice something when I read out this list, right? Why PlayStation is fucking GOAT. Number one, still to this day, PlayStation 2, 160 million consoles sold worldwide. 160 million. Now, again, you could be like, well, there's 8.9, but then take into the fact kids, blah, blah, blah. 160 million consoles sold worldwide. This system that came out in fucking 2000 outsold systems that came out this generation, last generation, 2 generations ago. Like, think of all the video game systems that have come out, and the PlayStation fucking 2 is still number one after 25 years. Okay. Number two, Nintendo DS, right? I could read out how many, but like it don't matter. I just want to, because I'm going to prove a point here. Number two, the DS, right? Number three is the fucking Switch. This holy god system that everyone talks about, the greatest system of all time. Oh my god, I could take it. I love the Switch, kind of. I haven't touched it in a while, but I do love the concept. But the system that, like, oh my god, you could take it on the go, you could put it here, you could do this. It's number three, dude. And that came out what, like 2019, 2018, 2017. Sorry. Okay. Game Boy and Game Boy Color is number four. PlayStation 4 is number five. PlayStation Original is number six. The Wii is number seven. PlayStation 3, number eight. PlayStation 5, number nine. And Xbox 360 is in the top 10. Now, in saying all that, I hope you realize that every single fucking, I'm going to say, every single fucking PlayStation console, minus handhelds, are in the top 10 selling video game consoles of all time. Every single home console that PlayStation put out, top 10. That tells you fucking something. Where's your original Xbox? Where is your Xbox One? Where's your Xbox Series X5, 9, 2, 3, whatever the fuck they called it? Where's your other one that's the Xbox Series X? Like, where is your Super Nintendo? Where's your Nintendo? Where's your Atari? Where it's not there. The PlayStation has five spots in the top fucking five. That tells you something. I'm just saying, just gonna
Well,
leave it at that.
and I
Fucking
think
tells you something.
and I think that's, it just brought something to my head when we look at this, right? Because when it came to handhelds, PlayStation had what, the PSP? Was there anything else other than the PSP?
PS Vita.
Okay,
Yeah,
who gives a fuck?
never owned any
But
of them,
but
didn't give a shit because
but what did you
Nintendo
notice
held that
about
market.
Nintendo? Nintendo's console became handheld, right?
Mhm,
And that was it because they
mhm,
couldn't beat the console war, but they had
mhm,
because Game Boy, like I said, I was playing Game Boy not too long ago. It's still relevant, but when you remove yourself from or even try to hybridize the console versus a handhold like what they did with Switch, and we've talked about my hatred for, only Switch 2 games on Switch 2, drives
mhm,
me batshit. But that's it. But it's monetization. And I think we saw PlayStation not bend anybody over a barrel while giving, I think, a huge market to indie game developers.
mhm.
Like
They gave companies a chance.
because
Do you know what I mean?
that's what they wanted. They just wanted a shot. And I think and unless Xbox comes out, because there are things where PlayStation is late, right? We talk about their tier system, we talk about the availability of games online versus what I can get with Xbox Game Pass. But as far as consoles go, PlayStation hands down one.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. And to build on that fact that you're talking about how PlayStation, like with indie games and whatever, like whatever indie games were back in that day, like it's a different thing now.
Yeah,
But if you think about it, like Nintendo really only, unless they really thought you had something, they only went to like the Asian developers, right? Capcom, Konami,
Namco.
um, Namco, Bandai, like. they kind of stuck in between there. PlayStation was willing to go, like, I should have looked it up, but Naughty Dog is not an Asian developer.
No,
Insomniac is not an Asian developer, right? Like they went and looked outside and they gave them a chance because they saw something in them that obviously like Nintendo did Rare. Rare was European, sure, but like PlayStation was like, we can't convince these companies to come to us because they have like such ties with, so we're going to look outside and we're going to bring these other companies in. We're going to show these other companies what these companies could do, these lower companies could do, and then we could start convincing these other companies to come and make games for us, right? Like I think that was their strategy. And again, fucking as a like super smart. Again, they gave these, who was Naughty Dog before Crash Bandicoot? Like how did they find them? Who was Insomniac before Spyro the Dragon? Right? Like these big hit games that came out. Like
well,
hats off to them.
and that's it. But I think, and you touched on it earlier, is you're about to come to market with no games, right? So right now you're basically saying, "Hey, I'm putting together a baseball team. I got the ball and I got a bat and I got first and third. Anybody here want to fill in?" And that's it. But you gave them the shot. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the one thing, is because PlayStation always has that underdog mentality. Like they will throw everything at the wall to find out what sticks, but they've been
Mm-hmm.
successful at it. Granted, if you went through every game PlayStation has ever made, probably only 15 to 20% are actually relevant to today, but they gave them that opportunity. It
Mm-hmm.
became
Oh dude, there
the entrepreneurial developers, like, dreamland, right? Like, let's try this. It may not work, but they're willing to give us a shot.
we're gonna be different. Like we need to be different. We need to stand out. We can't just be another platforming QT that's make like this QT childhood, whatever, right? So like, yeah. So to sorry to bring it back, we were talking about the PlayStation 2, buddy. The game changer in the fucking PlayStation 2 was the goddamn CD or the DVD drive.
Yep.
Like fucking oh my god, dude. Because at least they had the foresight to know. Because I believe the problem with the PlayStation 2 is they didn't have a lot of release games. Like they knew that they wouldn't for some reason. So what they did is again they found out um, Xbox was coming to the market. They knew kind of what the specs were. They probably had some insiders, whatever, right? Like obviously development starts like the PlayStation 5 came out and then like the PlayStation 6 was already in fucking development when the PlayStation 5 came out. So same thing. PlayStation came out, they're already talking about the PlayStation 2. They're like, we need to create shit, make shit better, right? So anyways, so they probably knew the Xbox was not going to have a DVD drive. And also if we all forget, Sony also had like a movie making company. They were in the entertainment fucking. They own Columbia Records. They own Columbia
Blu-ray.
Pictures. Dude, that was gonna come like, right now. Like DVD before like Blue. Oh my God, Blu-ray. Like they, because they were involved in all these other fucking companies, they had the foresight and they knew VHS was out and this new format that they pretty much created was coming in, right? So DVDs, all that other stuff, they're like, yo, look, the way we're going to market this is that this is an entertainment system. This is not a video game system. Yeah, you could play video games, but you could also watch DVDs because if we all forget, again, depending what the age group of whoever is going to be listening to this, if we all fucking forget, DVDs were expensive. Like DVD players were like 800, right? If I recall correctly, 809. Like they could reach almost to $1,000
I
for a
remember
DVD fucking player.
selling budget ones at $100 when I was at Future Shop.
Okay, okay, so like budget, but like okay, so maybe more 500
Yeah,
range
your
for a DVD
Toshibas
player.
were probably running you 2 to 3, but when Blu-ray
Mhm.
came out, and that was the thing, because we talked about it, Sony's always ruled home theater. So
They
the best
created
thing,
it.
it's their freaking lens. Like, you know what I mean? It's stuff like that that they took and they said, what doesn't Nintendo have? Screw that guy,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah,
I
and
think
then when
that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then when Microsoft came in, it was what doesn't Microsoft have, right? So when they started making all this like 3D graphics, now you had to start thinking we need the graphics to be better because that's what people were talking about, right? Nintendo started being like, oh, whatever, that's a little kitty sprites, cartoony
Yeah.
graphic. I want realistic. I want to feel like I'm playing real life. So now they had to start upping the graphics, the polygons and this. How do we output all these graphics, which again, DVDs, and then like we're talking, it was the next generation that came out with Blu-rays, but they had the DVD. So now you could get this system that plays games and plays DVDs. Why? What more do you need?
Well, you don't
Why
need a
am I gonna
computer
get it?
anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And why am I gonna get an Xbox that could only play games? And then I have to buy a DVD player to watch my movies when I can buy this PlayStation
It's an
that
all-in-one
that that all
media
in one,
center.
dude. Like
Yep.
it fucking like that's I think that's when it became the point where Sony had like the PlayStation was 40% of the revenue because they didn't have a lot of games. The reason why people bought PlayStation 2 was yeah, we like PlayStation and we want to play the games. But yo, this is a fucking DVD player too. That's the reason why I kind of got it. I was like, yeah, I could play some games, but this is a DVD player, dude. I can't wait for my friends to come over and be like, look, yo, this thing plays games and we could watch movies on it and we could play MP3s on it. You want to burn a disc and put music on this bitch right now? We could fucking do that. Well, no problem.
Right? And then
Fucking
I
no
started
problem.
figuring out the burnt movie game, and then yeah, that was it. We moved.
Oh, dude, we didn't even get into that. The whole modding, how easy PlayStation is to mod. The PlayStation 2, I think I don't think I modded my PlayStation 2, but the PlayStation 1, I modded that shit, rented statutory limitations is done, right? I rented fucking games. I would burn them. I would return them. And then I'd take my book up to school and be like, guys, these are the games that I got right now, $10 a disc.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so anyway, so the PlayStation 2, dude, and then they came out with that. The graphics, you look back now, the problem with 3D graphics is that at the time they look fucking amazing. Go back to them now, mm, depending on the game, not so good. Go back and look at GoldenEye now.
Oh fuck.
That game's a that game's a piece of shit.
I was looking
I'm gonna
at
say
Doom
it.
64, and I'm like, how the hell did we ever play that?
Dude, Turok, all those
But we
games,
could
but
see
you play
everything, right? We could
yeah,
we knew how to pixelate and make a scene out of the pixels. Now, if I
and
have
that's
to go,
because of the T.
what?
Oh no, go for it. Sorry.
Oh, because I was gonna say, like, I still haven't played Minecraft, but like when I look at these games, it's still pixelated, but I can't play something if it's not in 4K. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
dude,
Like
and that's because of the TV. We had CRT TV with scan
the
lines. Like I can't
DLP
get into the
was the oh
yeah,
man. It
yeah.
was a
I
good thing
can't
your
get
dad
into
worked for
the
Panasonic.
technical. Oh fuck, dude. But yeah, the reason why the games look so good is because they made them. They look like shit technically, but on the TV they look good. So, but the PlayStation 2 when it came out, dude, I remember buying it. I can't remember the price of it. I honestly, I all I have written down is up until the PlayStation 1, and then now I'm just kind of going off memory. I can't remember the price of it, but I fucking remember getting it. I remember getting. I think the game was called The Bouncer. I don't know if you remember this game, dude. It was made by Square Enix. I would love to go back to it. People are saying like it's one of the shittiest Square Enix games of all time. I had a blast playing the game. I feel like it was a mix between beat 'em up and like RPG. Like I could picture it in my head. There was four different characters. You go through the story as each one. Like it. Anyways, they had the bouncer. I remember that. That's my first memory of the game. I remember my dad bringing it home again. I didn't have the money to buy games. My dad was a gamer, right? Like he
Your
played
dad
Final
liked
Fantasy
having
one.
fancy shit.
My dad was a what do you call that? A in the marketing term, uh, not an innovator, I think it's called. No, the people that buy the shit first. Like they don't care if they know if it's going to be good or not. If it's new technology, they want to be the first ones to have it.
Yeah.
That's my dad. Yeah, that was my dad. That's probably why I buy new systems as soon as they come out, new shit as soon as they come
You were
out, right?
trained
Like that's
well.
probably why. It's just, but anyways, the PlayStation 2, dude. Fucking. What do we got here, dude? We got. Oh yeah, this is when they started coming into like their peak of like their franchises, their games, their whatever, right? Because then you had like Metal Gear Solid 2, I believe you had Final Fantasy 10. Holy shit, was that a game? Was that a fucking game? Like you
I still can't win at that soccer game. Doesn't matter how many times I
oh, I
try.
don't understand fucking not jet ball. I
Beautiful
was about
game
to
though.
call it jet.
Beautiful game.
Sphere ball. What the fuck is that? Yeah, whatever that underwater polo fucking game
Yeah.
is. Don't understand it, but you need to get good at it because that's how you get your final limit break. I know that for a fact. But the story, the graphics, the now everything could be on one fucking disc instead of like three or four, right? Because you mentioned Final Fantasy VII. The reason why it was three discs wasn't because of the game. The game could have all been done on one disc. It was the full motion videos, it was the cutscenes, it was the rendering, it was all that stuff. That's why that game was three discs. It wasn't because it was like this big, huge, and it was a big, huge game at its time. But you take away those crazy ass cutscenes and all that shit, it would fit on one disc. But now with the PlayStation 2, that shit fits on one disc. Like to to think that think if Final Fantasy X was made for the PS1, how many discs that game was be because Final Fantasy 8 was four discs. Final Fantasy 9 was three, I believe. I feel like because they learned how to like kind of condense shit and all that stuff. But Final Fantasy 10, what do we got here? Fucking Twisted Metal, yeah, yeah, yeah. Metal Gear
Ratchet and
Solid
Clank,
2, you
Ghosts of Tsushima,
oh buddy, Ratchet and
Horizon,
Clank, yeah,
even Spider-Man,
yeah.
right? Like it's
Oh dude, yeah, like we all forget like we're thinking like the new Spider-Man games now. We're like, this is weird that like now PlayStation like it's just, dude. Like, do you remember playing the original one
yeah.
in like 2000 on the PlayStation? How fantastic that fucking game was! And then you get the different suits after each replay, and like, oh my god. Um, so yeah, like with the PS1, PS2, yeah, you got your Crash Bandicoots, you got your Spyros, you got your fucking Metal Gear Solid 2. Like I know we didn't even get into it because eventually, hopefully, maybe this becomes a thing, and then we could go by each franchise and
Well,
talk about it. But
that
like, what
that's
fucking
essentially it. And even this, we might cut this into a two-parter, Joe. I always love to make them come back for more, but there is so much to talk about with the PlayStation 2. And I just want to try to bring us back because one thing
yeah,
that we did notice um, with every console brought in, other than Sega, really, um, it was a delivery of media, right? We talked about Xbox last week. Xbox's biggest thing was online gaming. It changed the game, the community gaming,
mm-hmm,
versus PlayStation that just changed the landscape of the game,
mm-hmm,
right? And
mm-hmm,
it's gotten to a point where we talked about, Nintendo doesn't even have, a console and portable. It's a one unit now because,
mm-hmm,
like you
mm-hmm,
said, this is my Xbox. The PlayStation, the PSP was kind of it was a whatever. But I think as a society, once the smartphone came out, we lost the need for a portable gaming unit. Um, and now we see PlayStation still being dominant. You have talked about
mm-hmm.
the things you hate because every PlayStation has some kind of UI UX problem, and
Fucking yeah.
but that's it. But they've got to come out. But the thing is, what did they brand? What games came out with PlayStation that you wanted right away? Spider-Man 2?
Oh, fucking yeah, like again, God of War,
Yeah.
right? You got your fucking your God of War, your Metal Gear Solids, like even Spider-Man, your Tony Hawks.
Yeah.
Like these games came out on other systems. They were the best to play on PlayStation, right? Like with the PS2, again, that's and I'm gonna say this again. The PS2 terrified Microsoft, the biggest fucking PC, whatever programming company in the world. was terrified when the PS2 was coming out. Like they thought the technology inside the PS2 was compared to a home computer system, and that terrified them. Like I just again I cannot emphasize the fact like how amazing this system and onwards is for PlayStation to come out of nowhere and terrify one of the biggest Fortune 500 companies of the fucking world. Like that just tell you like if you ever want to make arguments, like that's the argument. Do you like I'm not gonna be biased because I
No, no,
fucking love
that's
my
fine. But
PlayStation.
but
Like
that's just it. It's PlayStation brought something different, and you're touching on it well. I'm just trying to figure
like
out
you're
the
you're
best
you're
way.
single you're yeah you're single player. Like the PlayStation was really good at your single player fucking story driven games, right? If you just wanted to have some fun, whatever, go and play your Nintendos. But the PlayStation, they really hit their stride, I believe, with the PS2, where they realized that that was their market. Their online shit. I'm just gonna say it. Their online was shit. Even the next console, their online was shit. Was it free? Yes, but there's a reason why it's free. We all know it's free. It ain't good, right? So they're like, but their games are just fucking unbelievable. Like again, like God of War came out and it was nothing anybody has ever seen. Dude, the first scene in that game was fucking Kratos having an orgy. Like you would never see that on a PlayStation. And I feel like
Or on a
Xbox was a
Nintendo, yeah.
little like yeah, or sorry, you would never see that on a PlayStation or on a Nintendo, but like even on Xbox, like they were still trying to find out what the fuck they were gonna do. I think the PS2 era really solidified PlayStation on what are they?
It,
You know what I mean?
it found their
What are we
identity,
gonna do? They
and
fucking found their identity for sure.
and I would even make, just the way you talk about it. When we talk about a fan base, and you touched on it earlier, right? Nintendo, you're basically, if you're a Nintendo person, you're a Nintendo person. But when we grew up, it was Xbox versus PlayStation. But even to
Hmm.
this day, the loyalty of the PlayStation customer base is ridiculous. It's never, it doesn't let up because, like you said, there are exclusives that PlayStation has that define our generation. Like there's stuff
Hmm.
that we call like, Super Mario was cool, but like you said, it's not something you're gonna go play. But even yesterday when we were talking, like me and you had that conversation about, let's talk about Xbox franchises. When you think about it, Final Fantasy VII, let's talk flagships. Final Fantasy
Hmm.
VII versus Halo 1. Final Fantasy VII versus what else did they have? We talked about like you can't
Like
the
you can't because Xbox, all you could think about Xbox is fucking Halo.
but Xbox, and that was it. It was a community gaming system. And that's what, when we were kids, we used to argue about, oh, well, how are we going to play online with each other? But in today's day and age, and we're going to do a part two because I'd like to talk PS3, 4, and 5 because,
Hmm. Hmm.
PS3 to me probably could have done without, but
The black sheep. It's the black sheep. They
everybody's got
had
one.
good ideas. They had good ideas. They went a different route. The best idea they had, yeah, sorry, we'll talk about it later, but there's a little because I
Yeah.
feel like we might be coming to a close. The best idea they had was backwards compatibility. That's the best idea they had. Everything
And
else
this
was shit,
is, well,
but
this
that
is
was
where we're
it.
coming as a society, and we talked about this just as gaming evolves, Joe. Right? We went from, like a Coleco, Atari, Nintendo, Sega was dominant.
Hmm.
Then PlayStation just blew them out of the water. But this is one thing we talked about last week, and I want to ask you this because I love
Hmm.
your answers on this. What is one franchise PlayStation needs to reboot?
Fucking Parasite Eve, bro. Look, okay, look. I
I
think
haven't
about
heard
this
that name
game
in
fucking
so long.
dude. I think about this game all the fucking time, and I know it, and I know technically it wasn't a like a first party play. It was made by I'm gonna call it Square Enix. It was Squaresoft back in the day until them and Enix combined again. We could talk about that later. Parasite Eve took JRPG and survival horror and fucking mashed it beautifully into one fucking game, dude. And I have been waiting for that game to come out, remaster, reboot, fucking something ever since because it was so different to everything else. And it was the best of both worlds, right? Like they are like, holy shit, like our Final Fantasies and our JRPGs are selling like gangbusters. Our survival horrors, our Resident Evils, our Dino Crisis, our
Silent
do
Hills.
I want Dino Crisis? Do I want Dino? No, no, I'm gonna go
No.
Parasite Eve. I'm gonna go Parasite Eve. But like our survival horrors are going gangbusters. What if we take this shit and put it together? And let's have a girl who's a cop. And let's have a town that's like getting mutated by some sort of fucking whatever the fuck this chick is. And let's have you could walk around like it's Resident Evil. But when you get into a battle, it turns into Final Fantasy, but not just turn-based. You can move your fucking character around. You got guns, you could upgrade your guns, you could upgrade your powers. Let's also give her some psychic abilities, like materia shit. And let's just let the players have fun. Dude, I've been waiting and I don't understand what the fuck their problem is because I feel like that game sold like a lot. The story was interesting. It had voice acting on the PlayStation, which was rare in a point. Resident Evil was standing, but my God, look back at those fucking voiceovers and they were so bad. But they were just getting started. I'm not gonna blame them. They're funny now. Parasite Eve needs to fucking come back. Square Enix, PlayStation, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Stop making this live service fucking shit. Stop doing whatever the fuck you're doing. Stop rehashing. You're making another reboot of fucking Tomb Raider for God fucking sakes or whatever you're doing. I saw the trailer. Don't know if it's a reboot. Don't know if it's a continuation. Whatever the fucking. Stop what you're doing. Go back to your back fucking catalog and bring us back Parasite Eve, and maybe Dino Crisis, because that might be kind of a cool game with like Resident Evil new remake graphics
We've got the
and
graphics
controls.
for it now, yeah.
Right? You fucking hunt dinosaurs or fight dinosaurs like Resident Evil. But fucking I don't know what you're doing, PlayStation. I fucking love you guys. I really do. But I don't know what is going on in your goddamn minds. Last of Us, although is a great fucking game, is not the only game that you have. Stop remaking that shit. Go back to these developers, give them fucking money, and let's bring out these bangers again. Let's show these bangers to the new world. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
There you go. So there's Joe's rage out for the day. But we'll
The
continue
fuck,
this.
dude?
We'll continue this in a part two because I like to keep I like you keep you sitting on the edge of your seat, and we will eventually break. So the way that I would like to see this is we're gonna take talking PlayStation next week. After that, we are going to talk about Sega. Is Sega coming back? What should Sega do if they want to be revived? And then I want to go not only franchises, but I want to start talking developers. So we're going to look at
Hmm.
Ubisoft. We're going to look at Square Soft to Square Enix. Bad Robot.
Hmm.
Whoever, even Naughty Dog. I completely forgot about Naughty Dog, but I think that this is it. And like I said, it's this show is going to be a marathon. We're not sprinting by any means, but like I
Hmm.
said, it's we've been getting a lot of good feedback, so we will continue to make this. And as always, if you are watching this on YouTube, I will start uploading to Spotify. But if you are watching it on YouTube, please like, comment, you know,
Good,
subscribe,
bad,
something,
give
so
us
we know
criticism,
because
something.
in the last month we're up about 3,000 views just based on these. We have over 40 hours of watch time on our clips, so people want them, either that or Joe's just sitting in the bathroom death scrolling our videos, which I don't really care about. I'm just here for the analytics. But anyways, I want to thank everybody today for tuning in. This is another episode of Short Legs Big Rage. We will be back next week. I will be seeing Joe in person on Saturday. and we will figure something else out for next week. But
You
next week
know
we will
that.
talk
I didn't know that.
PlayStation 3, 4, and 5. And I have only played PlayStation 4, so Joe is gonna. Joe's got this one on lockdown. But again, thanks everybody for your time tuning in. Follow Joey Shadows on Twitch, Angry Corgi Customs on Twitch, YouTube. Both of us have our own channel, but I might just take his and put it under Angry Corgi
Do
Productions
that,
because
please. Thank you.
it's just easier. But anyways, everybody, thank you so much for your time. I'm Angry Corgi, and this is it.
Joey Shadows. Deuces.